Good evening, everyone. So I wanted to share with you that for 10 years, I have been arguing with my husband about how to educate our children. A long debate, nearly as long as our oldest has been born. And for the same amount of time, I've been working with the Mayberg Foundation and with JEIC to try to tip the scales in my favor. So far it's working, so keep it up. My name is Amanda Mizrahi. I'm the Managing Director of the Mayberg Foundation, and I am so happy to be here with all of you this evening. We're all here for the same reason. We all want to do our part in making Jewish day schools the best that they can be. We all want to stretch and improve ourselves, our own understandings, our own abilities, our own connections, to feel like we're doing our part to move the needle. But we don't get to do that work together. It's a special opportunity. We're about to hear from Mrs. Manette Mayberg, and it's her vision that gives us this opportunity to be here together. Not just to be working on how to improve Jewish day schools, but how we as funders, as educators, as influencers, as stakeholders can be doing this work together. It's her ongoing commitment to that vision that we're stronger together that brings us all here tonight. And I could not be more proud to introduce Mrs. Manette Mayberg.
Thank you. Okay, question. What gets you out of bed in the morning? Do you go to work because you are carrying a paycheck home, or because you love it and have a passion for what you do? Think about the nature of the motivation. Extrinsic, reward-driven, or intrinsic, internally driven? Let's examine extrinsic motivation first. It's the one we relate to the most easily. What are some of the things that we commonly do for a tangible reward? I mentioned work for money. We exercise to build muscle. We diet to lose weight. We contribute, often to be recognized. We joke sometimes to get a laugh. We dress to get compliments. Wait a minute, you say. Some people work because they do love what they do. And some people exercise because it feels good. And some people diet to look good. And there are even those who contribute to make the world better. Sometimes somebody jokes to connect with another human being, to get a smile. Or sometimes people dress just to feel good about themselves. Yes, it's true. These are all external awards, all the same. Even when the result is intangible, with all due respect to Rabbi Feld this morning, because we talked about tangible versus intangible. But even when the result is intangible, the outcome you are looking for is an extrinsic motivator. So, what do we do that might be intrinsically motivated? Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is love. It's true we can love to be motivated by being loved back, but sometimes it's pure giving. It's just commitment and dedication to another human being. Okay, what else? Take a class. That's relevant here. Just interested to learn, no other incentive, right? That happens. What else? Sometimes you see anonymous by a contribution. Someone wants to give anonymously. They don't want any credit, right? They don't want any other incentive to give. They just want to help. Well, these are all beautiful ideas, but I'm going to make a suggestion that's going to seem a bit jolting at first. There is no such thing as intrinsic motivation. Ridiculous, you say. Well, that's why we're all here, right? Intrinsic motivation. There are times when we do things just because it's the right thing to do and nothing more. And what about the concept of learning Lishma? Just learning for the sake of heaven. So, what's really going on here? I'm going to share with you the wisdom of Rabbi Noach Weinberg of blessed memory. He developed a famous class that describes the 5 levels of pleasure that a human being can experience in this world. It's based on Ahavas Hashem in Sefer HaChinuch. And since Chinuch refers to education, you get a little clue in here as to how this fits. You can consult your guidebook later for a sum up of the 5. It should be there. So let's quickly run through each one, and then you decide. Is intrinsic motivation real? And how can we think about it as a high-level framework for our students? 5th and lowest class of pleasure is material. We enjoy the physical pleasures of the world, and it's wonderful, and it's necessary. We use our 5 senses to take it all in. It's the most common and constant seeking of a human being, yet it yields the most fleeting pleasure. Physical pleasure feeds the body and the soul, but on the most basic level. Sadly, Rabbi Weinberg comments, some people live at this level all their lives, and they mistake comfort and pleasure, comfort with pleasure, while we know that real pleasure only comes with effort. 4th class pleasure is love. Can't find me love? No amount of material enjoyment can equal even 1 drop of love. No one would trade love for money. You wouldn't sell a child, forfeit a spouse. Real love is not infatuation. It takes work and effort. 3rd class pleasure is something that people are willing to give up what they love most dearly for. It's a higher level of pleasure than love. It's a cause. It's the drive to make a difference in the world, greater meaning, doing the right thing. Think about people who leave their prized possessions and even their loved ones at home to defend their country. In Judaism, we say, when you know what you are willing to die for, now you know what you're willing to live for. 2nd class pleasure is even greater than purpose. It's the power of creativity. Rather than follow orders, you have the power to create, to direct, to plan, and to conceive. The power to create yields children and family. Why is creativity so close to the highest level of pleasure? It touches the essence of God. The ultimate expression of creativity was God's creation of the world. Something from nothing. We get just a taste of that power when we use our creative energy. 1st and highest class of pleasure, it's connecting with the infinite, which gives our lives ultimate meaning. It trumps all else, It is what we seek from the deepest place. It is the most hitting and compelling motivator and cause of restlessness, discontent, and despair when it's unfulfilled. Imagine one has mastered and enjoyed all four levels of pleasure, and yet we know they can still feel empty. We each seek to reach out of this finite world and have a wow experience with something greater than ourselves, to become one with God. Nothing in this world can compare to the infinite. It yields pleasure incomparable to any other experience. So, my point is that a human being is always incentivized by pleasure. That's why we exist. It's what pleasures we seek and connect with that make the difference in our outcomes and fulfillment. I believe that what we really mean by intrinsic motivation is to be incentivized by that highest level of pleasure. In practical terms, it appears to be self-motivated without reward, but in reality, it is a human soul seeking the ultimate pleasure of connecting with the divine. That is Lishma. That is the way to live our best selves. The reward of intrinsic motivation so fulfills a person's soul that extrinsic and intrinsic are indistinguishable in those rare and incredible moments in reaching our highest pleasure, oneness with our Creator. That's why the work of JEIC and the focus of our IRs over the last few years build on each other. We had God expansion, making meaning, and now intrinsic motivation. Our goal is to illuminate the areas in which we can move our students from low-level reward seeking to being seekers of the highest level of pleasure in Jewish studies. As we together move the field toward feeding a student's soul with high-level pleasure instead of low-level motivation like grades, we literally become change agents for a stronger future for the Jewish people. Why, my colleague asked me, why? Why now to create an IR around no grades? You've been jumping up and down about this for years, she said. She said, it's true. Judging and grading students in Jewish subjects, it's been painful for me. I've seen how it deflates the Jewish self-esteem of those who get average or poor scores. And people think that getting an A is a good thing for top students. And you know what's really crazy? I was there. I had a hard time pressing my point when it came to the A students. It seems on the surface that getting A's is good for those kids until I had my own A student. And then it became obvious to me that it limited her potential. She only had to work to the A and not stretch a bit further. I can't blame her. If an accomplished student is held up by high marks, what is the extrinsic motivator to push her toward fulfilling her real potential? So how much more so for everyone else? Grades are a damaging extrinsic motivator. Wouldn't you be so done with Judaics if you were judged for years as just an okay or failing learner? And again, for top students, grades limit potential by providing an extrinsic motivator that deters them from working to their greatest capacity. My heart has told me for many years that grades are misguided and not aligned with Jewish wisdom. Grades in Judaics is a failed copy of a general studies model that rewards accomplishment. We know we're supposed to teach each child according to his own way. The corollary is clearly to evaluate each child according to his or her own way. If every student doesn't feel appreciated for his or her strengths in Jewish studies, we are simply closing the door on tremendous future potential. We also know that God judges us uniquely and not compared to one another. Think about how you would feel if you received a score for your aptitude in Jewish learning. I am sure I would not feel good about myself as a learner if I had to see my score compared to all of you in this audience. Learning is fulfilling for me because I understand my strengths and my limitations. I can grow to my personal potential without anyone else judging what I accomplish. What matters is me, my starting point, and my growth trajectory. We can evaluate one's effort. We can give constructive feedback. I can say that I need to put more effort toward my learning, prioritize it, embrace it more. I can accept help in understanding a concept or how to tackle a text, but someone else judging my accomplishment? No, I simply gain nothing from comparing to someone else's or hearing how I rate on some subjective scale. I might get more out of studying one page than someone else gets out of finishing the whole book. And that's the distinction of Jewish studies. That's why there's a holiness in Jewish studies. It's God-centered and human being-centered at the same time. I'll risk here saying that there are universal outcomes in Jewish studies that we would all agree are key priorities. That students emerge more connected to each other and to God. Students emerge with high Jewish self-esteem. Students emerge with a desire to actualize their greatest potential. Students emerge with rock-solid, unwavering, uncompromising Jewish identity. And these priorities are all parts of a student's personal journey. God forbid we should put a stumbling block in the way of a student's potential to reach the connection that they seek. We can call it learning with intrinsic or extrinsic motivation. It's all the same. There is one motivating factor to all decision making, and it's pleasure. It's responding to the calling of the divine within our students. It's conveying that being a Jew is a unique, soulful, and fulfilling journey. It's a trek, it's a struggle, but it's traversed on a bedrock of values that reflects the godliness within. It's conveying to our students that your mix of strengths and weaknesses is yours alone. Your accomplishments can't be compared to anyone else's. It's creating an inner soundtrack for the student, that your effort determines your reward, that you are the producer and director of your outcome, and you have everything that you need to experience the highest class of pleasure in this world. My friends, it's a new, enlightened day. Thank you.